maybe 10 years ago what I would be doing, I thought I would be coding, but it turns out my coding doesn't even make me code anymore.
Marketing for the Now is the most contemporary show about what's actually happening. Marketing is going through one of its biggest transformations ever, where this thing controls the game. And there's so many things we pay attention to, but we get to talk to the brightest and best minds in marketing on marketing. We are doing the Marketing for the Now, the VaynerX CANNES edition. We're extremely excited. We start off with a banger. Why don't you tell everybody on the other side who you are and where you work?
So my name is Aïda Moudachirou-Rébois. I'm a Global General Manager and Senior Vice President for MAC Cosmetics.
So, first of all, what is the most exciting and confusing part of marketing, in your opinion, as we are in the summer of 2025, Aïda?
I think probably the dance.
Yeah.
You have sometimes to let go, sometimes you have to get ahead, you know, with culture, with the creators, with everything. So I think the losing of control while being in control, I think that could be confusing.
And for everybody who's watching who's not of the marketing industry, the control, like being on brand, when we lived in a television first society and you did matching luggage in print and in the store, that's what we grew up with.
Yeah.
What I just talk about is like just this decentralized reality of social at scale.
Exactly.
And now with AI is going to only increase that.
Yes.
It makes sense. How many stakeholders in the organization would you say, or let's say over the last 5 years, have you seen classic leaders struggle with the lack of control or on brand? Do you feel like because it's the way we were all trained, is it been harder than you think? What's your gut on the executives making the decisions?
I think there's been a change because I think what's happening right now, I think a lot of executives do have kids who are Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and they're seeing the change. And I think for me, versus when I started my career and I had to really push and explain what was going on with influencers, when YouTube was created and, you know, even Instagram, I think right now I don't need to tell the top people because they know, because they do have kids around them or, you know, their own or their friends.
Plus, I'm sorry to interrupt, but plus you would agree with me, your industry specifically has moved quicker into this creator social world than other categories.
Yes, I think beauty has been always at the forefront because beauty is so personable and relevance matters. And there's no other way to get relevance than social media. I think it's the best way.
What do you think has been most surprising to you personally? When you talk about, you know, I have a very similar career. You know, I started a YouTube show in 2006. I was on Instagram, one of the first 10,000 users. Do you feel like for you and I, actually I'm asking you, for you, has this gotten bigger than you thought it would be? Or is this exactly what you thought was coming? And then more importantly, how much different do you think social is today than 5 years ago?
Is it bigger? I don't know if we ever picture. I think for me, like I still remember maybe 15 years ago when, you know, I was at a conference and we asked the question to somebody in a tech company about, you know, the digital transformation, you know, with the e-commerce, is that over? And he's like, no, I think we're just scratching the surface because Instagram was just born and it was foreseeing like many, many opportunities. And I think, yes, it's getting bigger every day. But I think what I'm the most surprised with is the way and the pace of the economy embracing those new platforms and the jobs it creates and the new ways of working and the new passion points and, you know, bringing community together. I think this is, it's probably beyond what I could have imagined. I think what is probably the most dramatic change versus many, many years ago, because I have a global role, so I travel the world quite often. I would say it's the live stream. And I think, you know, the US is really not there, but China, I mean, that's all they do. I think 60% of the sales in China are made on live stream. So somebody comes on camera, starts speaking, and sell for millions at a time. Yeah,
I was actually going to ask you, live social shopping is my obsession right now.
Yeah.
I own a kind of Pokemon Marvel Disney brand. We're doing 6 figures a show every night.
Yeah.
6 figures. And we're doing it on Whatnot, which is a small platform.
Yeah.
Not even TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Obviously, because you have a global role, it's a $500 billion industry in China, $500 billion.
Yeah.
It's been very clear that the West is starting to get there.
Yeah.
Between TikTok Shop and whatnot, and we'll see Meta, I'm sure, and others get into it.
YouTube.
100%. How prepared is the organization, and what do people in the West need to know about how important live social shopping really is?
I think I don't know if people can imagine what it is, because I think you have to go to the studios there in the East and just look at the infrastructure and see it for yourself, because it's 24/7. It's like QVC on steroid, right? Like, and with kids that are relevant. And I've even seen, traveling to Italy, people live streaming from Italian shops, designer shops in Italy, into China.
I see it as well.
So I think it's just, it's not going anywhere. Because
it's just starting.
It's just starting.
That's right.
And I think what people need to know is how it works, because I think it comes with a very different P&L structure.
Rules, yeah. We've got a minute or two left. What have we not touched on right now that is most top of mind for you? Obviously, I'm sure live shopping, but anything else randomly you're excited about?
No, I'm very excited about, like the building cultural relevancy, with the social media platforms. And I think, MAC was always, we don't consider MAC as a makeup brand, we consider MAC as a culture brand. And to be in culture today, you have to be in pop culture, and pop culture really starts and lives on social media. So
do you believe social media has become the primary channel for brands in 2025?
I think it has been. It has been the primary channel for a while.
I agree.
But I think that right now it's no longer a conversation. It's no longer a debate, even for search.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, search especially is about to go away with AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me.
One of my faves. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and we'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm Dara. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Autodesk. Autodesk, our software is used to design and make anything, whether it's products you use every day, buildings we live and working, or movies and entertainment that we enjoy, including, by the way, some of the ads that are going to be playing and winning awards today.
Good for you. All right, Dara, right off top, as we sit here in the middle of 2025, smack in the middle, what has been the most interesting development in 2025 from your perspective as a seasoned marketer?
So I think the most interesting development has been just kind of the way AI is scaling. It's the speed. It's just unprecedented. We actually just released our Autodesk AI jobs report. And since 2022, there has been a 640% increase in AI proficiency for everyday roles. So this is not just technical roles like software engineers or, machine learning experts. This is for basic roles. Now people want AI content creators. They want AI brand managers. They want AI strategists, AI coaches. Just that proliferation of AI, especially in our industry, has been unprecedented.
Yeah. I think a lot of people fear it, and I'm empathetic to why, because it is definitely changing the landscape. But it is very much here.
It is very much here. And I think one of the things that I think people are afraid of, people don't like the Gen AI tools that push you into predetermined outcomes. Because that way it's like, hey, I'm an expert and you're producing the same thing that my 7-year-old is producing. So one of the things that I think has been important for us, at Autodesk is creating software that doesn't predetermine those outcomes. So put the creators in control, like our Autodesk Flow Studio. So the AI tools like that give creators the control. So think about it like a tandem bike. The AI is just that extra horsepower at the back, but you're determining the direction. But that fear comes from the tools that force you into predetermined outcomes.
Yeah, I also think the fear comes from people that are just underestimating how commoditized this will all end up.
Yes.
I lived through the internet, 95, 6, 7, and everyone's like, the internet, as if it was this thing, and eventually you realize no, that is everything. And there is no world where AI is not everything.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to not only raise the ceiling, but raise the floor, right? It's going to raise the floor. Yeah.
That's for sure. What about for Autodesk? What are you most excited about in the back half of the year? Who are you trying to win with in more relevance? Where's the opportunity Where's the growth that you're looking for to get more people to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are really excited about our LA28 partnership. So we are the official design and make platform of the LA28 Olympic and Paralympic Games and Team USA. And, I think what's exciting for us is, starting to tell those stories, right? So we're not waiting until 2028 to start telling the stories of how we're retrofitting over
You're
40.
roading to
We're
it.
roading to it. And LA, I love LA so much because that's a city that has been through a lot,
Yes.
right? It's a city that has been through a lot. It's a city that I think I cannot wait for LA to showcase its beauty to the world in 2020, but starting to also tell the story of some of the resilience that is happening, telling the story of the athletes who are part of that community, starting to really bring those things to life and show how sustainability is at the heart of it, leaning into that.
Let's take the veil away, because there's a lot of people that watch a show that aspire to be you one day. No, really. There's just so many people that watch this show that are...
I think they really aspire to be you, but
honestly, I have my group as well, but very honestly, when we look at the metrics of this show, there's an extraordinary many people in ad school. There's many people that are associate brand managers.
Yes.
When you're an associate brand manager, if you're ambitious, you're thinking about CMO life in a decade.
Yes.
I have a really fun question based on that. How much pressure as a senior marketer at the height of an organization, when you make a commitment to something like the LA Games, it's a big investment.
It's a big investment.
And, I've been around the block a couple times too, and there's a lot of things you can't do. You write a big check to a big thing. And I've seen Super Bowl, World Cup, Olympics be remarkable wins, and I've seen them be extraordinary pit holes. It's kind of like building a house.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's epic, and sometimes it breaks up a couple because it was just
you got to make sure the roof isn't leaking.
When you as you go through this, how much, again, we're now talking to the people that one day want to be in this spot. How much pressure is it? What do you have to put in place to maximize that kind of investment?
There's a lot of pressure, and I think that's why
because your CFO's what are we getting for this?
Yes, and you have got to get it right. Your CFO and your CEO, right? They're like, what is happening? So you got to get it right. A statement that I like to say to my team is, our walk track is our talk track. So before I make any investment like this, I want to make sure that we have earned the right to participate. So for Autodesk, our software has been designing and making games for several Olympics, but we never told the story. We never capitalized on the commercial opportunity. So it's almost, you could almost say—
You're not reaching.
No, we tested to invest. So I'm a big believer on test to invest. I want to make sure that before I put my brand dollars behind something, that I know what my ROI is going to be. So we had, we were a part of, for example, the Paris Games. Our software was used to design the Olympic Athlete Village, which got a lot of coverage. That's now affordable housing, helping to make Paris better. So we knew that. And then there was also looking at the commercial opportunity. About $7.1 billion of construction work is happening. Guess who's the official design and make platform? Autodesk. You're looking at it. So there was
you get one or two of them to switch over and you've got it.
So there's the ROI calculation immediately makes sense, right? And so really thinking about how have I tested to invest? What is the real commercial opportunity? And by the way, I know not every single brand play has commercial opportunity, but for us to do this type of brand play, there had to be the commercial opportunity. And then the third thing I would say is it authentic to you? Because when it doesn't work, I don't believe in faking it till you make it. I'm like, we're just out here making it, right? When it doesn't work and it's not authentic, you don't know if you're really going to get something out of it. For us, it's like, this is what we do. We design and make these games. There's no way these buildings or venues are going to be retrofitted without us.
Software.
There's no way it's going to happen. LA28 wants to be the most sustainable games. Paris, we edged our way there, but we weren't 100%. LA28 is going to be the first 100% sustainable games with no new permanent venues. So it is our software. So it is authentically connected to who we are. Our purpose, why we exist, is to design and make a better world. The game is going to come to our home headquarter country, and we're not going to, this is our chance to shine. So that, making sure it's authentically connected, we've tested to invest, and there's a commercial opportunity.
I love it. I love the passion. We ran out of time. We'll see you next time. Marketing for the Now with Kelly, one of my favorite people. I'm going to let her say hello, and then we'll get into it.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Kelly Mahoney, and I am the CMO of Ulta Beauty.
All right, Kel. It is summer 2025. We're 6 months in.
I gotta do this if you're not.
Please, do your thing. Obviously, you're in this new role.
100 days.
100 days. Like a president.
It's like a president.
What has been the most surprising thing in this role? You've been in corporate, you've been in comms and things of that nature, but What has surprised you, if anything?
Well, I've been at Ulta for 10 years.
Right.
I think what surprised me about this is the amount of external facing work that you have to do. I mean, you all know that you got to tend to your teams, you got to build the vision, you got to set priorities and all that. But the boardroom and the external investor community, we're publicly traded, but
They want to know.
I love it.
Good. Good
Yes.
for you. What are you most excited about in marketing in general? What has got you kind of most either curious, concerned, excited? Like what's taking up your energy that you're thinking about as a genre, whether live shopping, AI, influencers, like what's on your mind these days?
That's hard. Well, it's hard to just pick one, probably.
Pick one or two then.
You know, I grew up in more of the data,
Yes.
personalization,
Yes.
retention marketing sphere. And so, like, I couldn't come to CANNES and not talk about AI, right?
Yeah,
and
of course.
personalizing experiences. And it does take up a lot of my energy and the team's energy and time because, like, we're this close. Like, I feel like Ulta Beauty's this close to just flipping the switch and us being probably the most personalized retailer on the planet.
That's awesome.
It's like set a high bar.
Let's talk about your space. I think beauty in a lot of ways is a leader and a first mover. I feel like social, as you know, and we've
Yeah.
talked many times through the years, I'm incredibly passionate about how big of a deal it is. And I think beauty felt the effects of it first in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. What is the state of the union, in your opinion, on what's going on with influencer, creator economy in beauty?
Well, the first thing I did in the first 30 of my 100 days as the CMO was I found the right partner to help me think this one through, which would be Vayner.
You're very sweet.
No, but seriously, it's an emotional, very personal category. And also where our guest is in social.
Yeah.
So we have to show up, and we have to show up with authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think social has been a leader, and it can't just be one platform. It's got to be all the platforms, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of understanding of the customer in order to put the right content in front of the right people across the platforms and be doing that like every day, every minute, every hour, because that's got to change. And like I said, we needed help, so we brought you guys.
What about for the people that don't know as much about retail? There's a lot of different CPG and B2B. What is kind of the most exciting part, like advantage, and like what's something that people may not realize that's incredibly challenging about being in the retail business? How many doors do you guys have?
1,400 across every state in the
a lot of
United
doors.
States. It's a lot of doors, 50,000 associates. I think that my answer is probably the same as the biggest
The gift is
opportunity.
the curse?
Yeah, I think so. The consumer, like the opportunity.
How close
is
you are to them?
how close we are. And we have 45 million members in our program. 95% of all our sales are coming from members. So we know a lot about the consumer. And then our associates in our stores are talking to the consumers every single day, because that's what makes us truly different is the experience we can create for them when they walk in the store. So that's exciting. Like, that's really, really exciting. But also the challenge. I mean, at the end of the day, keeping up with the consumers as they're shifting what they love and where they love to get inspired.
They don't care about our feelings.
No.
They just live.
No. And they'll keep evolving. So we got to stay one step with them.
How are you thinking about live shopping? You know, I think when I look at a $500 billion in China, 30 to 40% of their entire e-commerce now in China is on live shopping.
Yeah.
We're now entering the early stages. It's getting obvious it's going to happen here in the West, US, Europe. What's your take? What have you looked at? What's your kind of 1-2 cents on live shopping?
Yeah, it's the live shopping renaissance, isn't it? I think we have to do it. Beauty's about discovery. So the consumer wants to learn. You can't have enough mascara. You can't have enough eye palette. So wherever you can put inspiration in front of the guests. And I think live shopping is a great platform that we need to be doing more of. I don't think we're doing enough of it.
Yeah.
So we are talking about it all the time. And then to your point about our stores, having 1,400 locations, and we have now the Associate Ambassador Program, which are associates and influencers able to be in our stores, building, powering content. Like, why can't we turn that into a live shopping
studio
100% across all of our retail locations?
There's a lot of people watching, actually. This show especially has a lot of aspiring CMOs. What about talking to 25-year-old you? We've kind of recently really looked at the data of this show. There's a shocking amount of 25 to 30-year-old agency and brand side executives watching this.
Yeah.
A lot of them want to be you one day, truly want to be a CMO of a Fortune 5000 company. What is one or two things that stand out to you for the most ambitious of the crew on what they can do to get there?
Well, I never would have thought this is where, honest answer is I never would have thought this is where I'd end up. Humble beginnings. So I remember being 25 and thinking, okay, if I could just get to the next level, then I really made it. And if I could just get to the next level, then I really made it. I think I've always kind of subscribed to the, like, I'll say yes to just about anything. And maybe that's like the craziest thing you've ever heard, because don't they say no is the most powerful thing to say?
You're talking to somebody who puts out a lot of content around yes culture.
Yes.
So at least maybe. To me,
At
everything's a
least
maybe.
maybe. I do like
everything's
that.
a maybe.
Okay.
I think so many people are like, no, no, no. Everything's maybe.
I say yes to a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And then I know what not to do. And at
Correct.
25, I just don't think you know what not to do. So
Yes.
say
Just
yes.
haven't done enough things yet.
Yeah. So I've done it all. I mean, even at Ulta in my 10 years, I ran stores for like 18 months. I did a store operations stint.
Well, I also think that helps you, once you have context of everything, when you live in another man's or women's shoes, you have a much better sense of who and what they are.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
What has been, this is a fun one as we wrap up. What has been the most surprising trend or thing that has evolved into importance that you've seen in your career? Meaning, 10 years ago when influencers started to get going, you could have never imagined it mattered this much, or e-commerce, or like, for you personally, just as a human going up, what was the thing that you were like, oh, that's cute, but then ended up becoming very important? Anything stand out?
Well, I mean, I think coming up the CMO ranks through data personalization and now AI. I mean, we've been at this for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Trying to build out a true marketing tech stack. Yeah. And really getting to a point where we can be the most personalized ever. I guess, is it surprising? I think it is, because the game keeps changing. Like, the game keeps evolving. And so it never ceases to amaze me. Actually, 3 years ago, we weren't talking about CDPs. We're talking about CDPs, and everyone's got to have one. So it just continues to evolve, and I think it continues to surprise me. But a lot of things, I guess, do. So
I mean, I think staying curious and being open to that surprise matters.
Yes, surprise
Thank you.
Thank
Love
you.
We'll see you next time. All right, we're back here at VaynerX's Marketing for the Now at Cannes Lions. This one's very exciting for me. Meridith and I were just talking separately at a different part of today's day, and she told me a story that I actually remember very vividly. Sometimes I'm polite. I'm like, yeah, I remember, but I actually don't. But I really remember this. I was interviewing Bracken Darrell, one of my favorite executives, who's was the CEO of Logitech at the time, and I asked him how he stayed current, and he called out a person on his team who did that for him, and that is this young lady. So why don't you introduce yourself and say where you're at?
My name is Meridith Rojas. I am the CMO of North America for Vitacorp, and that is home to MCO Beauty, which is a brand that's in Target and provides luxury dupes for less.
So Meredith, real quick, you're so young and already in this kind of role. One thing we've seen from our data is that a ton of people are watching this show that are like 25 to 30 in brands and at agencies that want to end up where you're at. I ask this a lot, but usually with more seasoned executives, you got into this CMO role pretty young in your career. What's one piece of advice if there's a really ambitious young girl on the other side that wants to end up in this exact seat? Anything stand out that helped you get to this point?
I think trusting your instincts is so important, because oftentimes you have these preconceived notions that you have to have a certain tenure to reach a point.
Levels.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I also came into this role with a lot of different types of experience as an entrepreneur, as a marketer from other industries, but I never worked specifically in beauty. And so I think there was this sense of that would never happen. You would never step into this kind of role without having years and years of experience. And it's a testament to the leadership at the company, at Vitacorp and MCO Beauty, that they wanted a disruptive marketer. And I think in today's landscape, having somebody who understands social, who's completely fluent in creators and influencers, and isn't afraid to trust their instincts, that goes a way farther than, I have 20 years experience in this specific industry. Actually, that might be kind of tired.
A detriment.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're in 2025, halfway point. What has been the most interesting trend for you overall in marketing? What has emerged or declined? What's got you thinking?
I think community is so critical, and it's all these like niche communities. I say like the riches are in the niches. And so rather than trying to get everyone to care, it's more about finding out how do you distill down what your community is as a brand and match make that to creators, to other brands. And I think like borrowing community is in many ways the new ad spend, because you're not just creating something and then dropping it. I mean, unless you are on the airwaves, you're actually like going in and leveraging creators' channels and communities. So if you want them to actually be interested in your brand, you have to fit the feed to some extent.
Which social platforms are most interesting to you right now, and which ones are kind of ones you're excited to understand a little more?
TikTok. It's like that everything is TikTok, I think. I'm a millennial myself, but I don't really watch TV anymore, and my kids are Gen Alphas. They don't
even know what a TV is.
Yeah, it's YouTube or nothing.
Yep.
And for me, it's like I love TikTok, and I'll just immerse myself, and my algorithm is my best friend. I feel like it's like I can just like start to scroll. Yeah.
And what about as a marketer, is there a platform that you intuitively like, man, I feel like there's something there, but I haven't gotten around to really dig the gold?
I'm really interested in Substack.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm looking at Hannah. We've been having that combo at scale lately.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like treasure in that, and that people are really starting to develop. Again, if you go to like the riches and the niches, like there's more expanded opportunity for you to dig into topics that are of interest to you. And then I think LinkedIn is becoming a really interesting platform. It's a different one, you know, as a brand that's looking to reach consumers. You might think that's like the last place you'd go, but I think that because it's kind of new, there's a lot of disruption that can take place.
Yeah, and I can tell you because we've been hot on it for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, even though people are there in the B2B mindset, they're still humans. Like, you may go there looking for someone to add to your team.
Yeah.
But if I put a fashion product in front of you that you're interested in, you're in feed.
Totally.
You're a human.
Absolutely. And I actually think you're more connected because you feel like those are people that you know because they're in your network.
Sure.
Whereas sometimes you end up following a lot of people you don't know. So there's like a different level of trust perhaps. And you're also not expecting someone to talk to you about something. So I think you have this unique moment, which will probably shift in 6 months, but unique moment that if you get in the right conversation, I think you can have a big impact.
What about live social shopping? You know, $500 billion industry in China.
Yep.
30 to 40%, depending on which report you believe, of all e-commerce in China, one of the world's biggest economies, is now live shopping.
Yeah.
We're just starting to see it here in the West. TikTok Shop for sure, but even startups like Whatnot.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where's the organization? Where do you all sit on it?
I mean, I think that we're really interested. I'm always sort of pushing the team to say, like, fish where the fish are. So if they're interested in shopping in that capacity, like we need to figure out how to deliver not only the product and the sale, but the conversation and the narrative and the story around that. So 100%. I also think TikTok Shop is something that's like going to become one of the biggest channels for us.
For the marketers that are a little more seasoned, what do you back to underpriced, right?
Yeah.
What about overpriced? You know, as a modern marketer, what are the things that you really struggle to get excited about that your competitors or other marketers are spending on?
So I think as a challenger brand and as a brand who, like, our entire mission is to democratize luxury and to bring things that are normally inaccessible, like prestige beauty, to mass.
Yes.
And so as a result, we're trying to redefine what luxury is and say it's not so much a price tag, it's a mindset. And it's an emotional upgrade that we want to deliver. And so as a result, I think, we're also not spending the kinds of dollars that the big beauty brands are spending. I have a good example. So we have a Times Square billboard, and I don't care who walks by it. It's not about that. So like, we're not thinking about out of home as a traditional media vehicle. We're thinking about it as a social stunt. So every time we put Campbell or any of the creators that we're working with on the billboard, they're going to post about it to their millions of followers.
Correct.
And then that becomes something that's really exciting for them.
Think about things through the lens of social.
100%.
That's it. That's a great way to end.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we are back for another segment here on VaynerX's Can edition of Marketing for Now. MK, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
I am MK. I lead the Android ecosystem marketing team globally at Google.
Very cool. First question, we're halfway through 2025. As a marketer, what has been the most interesting thing or development or thing that's really caught your eye so far this year?
I think it's hard not to say AI, given that we are Google and we're the tech company.
Yep.
But I will say we are at a pretty interesting time in this AI era, and I feel like our the pace of culture and trends and the pace of technology puts so much pressure on product marketing, where we need to really be on toes, coming up with narratives, launching narratives quickly, testing that out in weeks, ideas in the morning, social post by night. I don't think we have the bandwidth to follow a very serial process. And so I do think it's a new era for marketers to work in this kind of dynamic environment.
I agree. We actually at Vayner, and we think we're really ahead of this, we call it AIM.
Okay.
Analyze, looking at data from the day before.
Yes.
Ideate, and then make, all in one day.
Wow.
We are literally in production after lunch.
Yeah, wow.
And we think that every creative agency in the world or creative infrastructure internal team, if they are not a human that contributes to actual making, that it's over. That the days of ideas and decks and meetings are very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah. It's that old paradigm, right? Like ideas are relatively easy, execution is everything. And I think we're in that era for sure.
For sure. And then we're in an era because of platforms like Shorts and its competitors where the creative is being validated if it's relevant or not.
Right.
Like we're now in a place where you can measure creative.
Yes.
On relevance, which is the dream for a marketer.
Yes.
Speaking of which, what are your challenges? As when I think about Android, it's incredibly well known. Obviously, there's a very substantial competitor for a lot of its products, but where do you think about awareness versus relevance for something that big?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, we take our responsibility. We have 3 billion users that use us every day. We take that responsibility super seriously. We want to make it exciting for them to use, and helpful at the same time. So we can say all the AI and all the tech in the world, but it has to feel accessible and approachable and part of their workflow. So we are very excited to bring AI and technology in a way that feels natural for our users. That's what has been Android's ethos from the get-go. And I think an open platform allows us to be innovative and work in a sort of value system that gets these things very quickly, which, we've been first at many things. Foldable devices are one. AI on Android has been excellent, and users are teaching us. Users are teaching us. For instance,
that's what open source does.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. Like the community is very engaged. For instance, last year we learned that 30% of searches were happening while someone was going through an experience on their phone in some other app, and instead of taking a screenshot and going somewhere else to discover something, we said, why not just bring it to whatever app you're using and just circle it, and it'll show you in that context. And you can go back to that app, or Gemini. It's just you press the long press power and it surfaces on top on Android. It's very integrated in that way, just to make it helpful for your workflow. So you don't have to leave something to go somewhere. You were in that environment, you come back to that YouTube video that you just wanted a quick update on while you're browsing. People are doing these things on the phone, and we see our Gen Z users adopt these features so quickly that it's quite amazing. I mean, they're grown up in the AI era.
Of course, that's what they know. All right, I'm going to give you a couple of rapid words, and I'm curious, you as a marketer, how you're thinking about it for Android and things of that nature. So let's start with influencers. How are you thinking about creators and influencers for your world?
I would say embed or endorse are good terms for them. Embed would be like working very deeply with like a Los Seraphim or a K-pop band or Wicked for certain it's a very manifesto-oriented marketing. And then endorse is more, you have a long-term relationship like we have with McLaren, and we use them to endorse our products, and they're great partners because they're a great collaborator for us, and they make our tech good too. So it's a very a bilateral relationship, which is awesome.
Social first, and when it works, it becomes the campaign, versus campaign first, social as matching luggage?
I think modern marketing is very social first, but if you don't have confidence in your brand foundation or like what your promises or authentic understanding of what your product is, you can latch on to trends, but it won't feel authentic. I think you really do need to stay centered. It has to accrue to your brand at the end of the day.
How do you judge that? Because I think I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
Like who judges that? Leadership? Because I think that's what I've been really fascinated by.
Yeah, I think we all have OKRs at the company, but OKRs need to be user sentiment. They need to be what a user feels. Like a simple OKR, like, is this user excited to use your product? Very basic, but actually it's very hard to shift that like in a short time. It's a very longitudinal way of thinking. And I think that is like, we have to stay true to that, but you have to pick up on what the user is telling you and move on that speed. I think that's like the change management we need to go through.
You have any, here's a fun question, it's challenging, so, don't worry if you want to give this a second, but for fun, in 5 years, a marketing execution or standard that is in deep, deep trouble and is the way of dinosaurs, or a marketing thing that's going on in 5 years that is just starting now and will become like the establishment? Anything stand out in either bucket?
Gosh.
I know it's not an easy question.
I don't know if I know. I'm an engineer by trade, so I don't know if I could even answer that. If you asked me 10 years ago what I would be doing, I thought I would be coding, but it turns out wipe coding doesn't even make me code anymore. So that's hard for me to say. I will say this.
Please.
One thing that I'm very excited about is we are working on our XR vision. I think what I have seen what Gemini-centered glasses can do with the physical world and real world. Having your child who only speaks English talk to your mother who only speaks the native language, have that conversation in natural language, not like a robotic.
Yeah,
it's actually one of the moving things that I've experienced.
It's one of my actual favorite things that AI is going to bring.
I think it's amazing.
Besides mapping people and understanding their diseases,
yeah,
the language thing, which gets people very emotional. The fact that no one needs to learn a language anymore, like people get ideological about, but in real life, it's going to be beautiful because there's a lot of grandparents and grandchildren that can't communicate ever. And this is, in the next 24 months, that is eliminated in perpetuity.
Yeah, I just think there's something, it brings the world closer in dimensions that we haven't quite witnessed, and that'll bring new innovations, hopefully new marketing practices along the way.
Just like a boat or a plane or something like that. Thank you, MK. We'll see you next time.
Hi, everybody. Saving the best for last, which is me, Avery Akkineni, and our incredible final guest, who is Jessica Daughetee, the VP of Marketing Experiences at Microsoft, who is an incredible award-winning CMO with more than 20 years of marketing expertise and excellence in the marketing and communication spectrum. We are so thrilled to have her today. We've been spending a little bit of time here in Cannes this afternoon. Jessica, how's it going?
It's going great. An amazing event, and it's been a really fun afternoon spending time with you all.
Awesome. It's been great. Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in the marketing space and always in the tech space. So I've been in the tech space forever. I spent 20 years, almost 20 years at Intel.
Okay.
I was at Avnet, and then, I've been at Microsoft for about 3 years now.
Fantastic. And how's it been?
Great, eye-opening, very different. You work at a big company like Intel, and you think you know what Microsoft will be, and it's completely different.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that your team has been doing a lot of really interesting work in the AI space, both internally and externally. AI is the buzzword of Cannes Lion 2025. Talk to me a little bit about some of the programs you all have going on.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I run a large team, and we put a lot of volume through it. And so when we started looking at AI, I was trying to find ways to take sort of the drudgery, take some of that work off of the team in order to let them focus on more creative things, more strategic things. And so we built something called the AI Content Composer, which basically allows it to ingest a brief, and you train it on your brand, visual identity and all of those things, basically, and it will create content for you, right? And then we can actually get it to post on our website automatically. It does small updates for us. So literally, it needs very little information. We train it on a few things, and then it starts spitting out our content, which is amazing, right? And then, of course, there's humans involved. We do QA, we do all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things we're doing from an internal perspective.
I bet when you started in marketing 20 years ago, that would have seemed like it was absolutely crazy.
Oh, yeah, it seemed crazy a year and a half ago, frankly. The idea that we would be able to do that and it come out so great, like the quality is really great. So it's amazing. I mean, it's really allowing us to focus where we want to focus instead of on the things that that take a lot of our time and energy.
I mean, just hearing you share a little bit about this, you can feel your passion. And at a company like Microsoft, AI must just be really embedded throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's playing with it and trying to figure out how can we leverage it to help our business, and do more with less and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. But we're also looking at how we can help customers, right, as well. And so one of the things that we did is we created something called the AI Assistant that's on our website, on certain parts of our website, where it's helping customers, instead of having to use traditional search, they can go in and they can use natural language and say what they're looking for, and then they get very customized results for them, additional prompts that they can use to dive deeper, but it has all the links to all the things that are related to that, rather than hunting and pecking and going through that. So we're also looking at ways we can provide a better customer experience too.
Well, let's talk about the Microsoft customer. You all do a lot of, B2B marketing, I would imagine. How do you develop that sort of B2B marketing from a creative and a content perspective while maintaining that quintessentially Microsoft sort of brand voice?
Yeah, we have multiple different audiences we're marketing to from a B2B perspective too. Right. And so we actually really have to tailor our marketing to each of those, right? We're talking to developers one day, we're talking to IT decision makers another day. And now with Copilot, we're talking to end users. So companies who've deployed, Copilot, but we need to get to their employees so that they start using Copilot. So we really have to shift our messaging constantly and really think about who we're marketing to and fine tune sort of what that B2B message is going to be.
Amazing. Okay, so let's shift our focus to Cannes. We are here under the Cannes Lion sun.
Yeah.
Tell me what brings you to Cannes. Literally, it is very hot. You might not be able to see this, but trust me when I say it is warm.
Yes.
And for some reason, I wore a pinstripe mini suit today. So tell us what brings you to Cannes.
Oh, the creativity, the innovation, the energy you get. You talked about your passion for AI. I love talking to people who are passionate about, marketing and creativity and things like that. And so it's a great place to kind of hear great ideas, listen to amazing speakers, and then just meet with people that you don't normally get to meet with and talk about ideas and ways you could work together potentially. So it's just like this, it's this place where you can go and just get inspired and creative and excited about what you're doing.
That's so true. What are you hearing? It's only day 2 of Cannes, really, but what are you sort of hearing this year as a big theme?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One of which, interestingly enough, as I talk about creative and that stuff, is data. But it's really about how data should drive creative now. And so I think in the past, we've always used data as, a targeting tool, and we've used it as proof of whether something worked or not. And I think that the discussions are now really about predictive analytics, right? And what kind of information you can get, and then looking at how do you use that insights to inform your creative and constantly refine and have it predict how this is going to perform based on this. So it's really interesting. You wouldn't think that's a big topic here, but that's a big topic that we've been talking about is data.
That makes sense. And for CMOs and marketing leaders, what's one essential skill or capability that you think is going to be the most important in this the next era, like the post-AI era?
Honestly, it's going to sound trite, but it's understanding and embracing AI, right? I think that so many marketing organizations are a little bit nervous about embracing that, and is it going to take this role or what? It's such if you're not using it, someone else is going to use it, right? And that'll impact you in a bigger way, right? You have to embrace it and get excited about it because it can take all the things that you don't love doing away, right? And help you do all of those kinds of things. So I think learning how to use AI is a skill, and I think it's something that marketers have to understand and learn in order to be successful, because the future will have AI in marketing. There's no question of that.
That's absolutely right. Okay, well, I'm going to end this podcast on some good news. Nick found your phone.
Oh, yay!
And I'm also going to share, we can do a little zoom in because we have kind of matching nails, which is a very trendy nail look. So thank you, Jessica, so much for joining Marketing for the Now. It was amazing to have you. We look forward to spending more time together, and yay for the phone.
I love it. Thank you.